Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates. My name's Ron Tyler. We're coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. You don't need that. Folks, today is going to primarily talk about what happened last night. Yes, early yesterday evening, Russia time, early yesterday evening, California time, we had a major earthquake in Russia, an 8.8 earthquake. I'm going to show you that right now. We want to discuss this quite a bit tonight because we have a lot of things to talk about here. A lot of lives were in danger, and a lot of lives still may be in danger because of what's happened. Here on that blue dot that you're seeing in front of you now is the 8.8 major earthquake that happened. Notice also, USBS is including most, and I'm going to say most, of the aftershocks from that quake. Most of the aftershocks from that quake. Now, why am I saying most? Because as I've stated before, USGS cannot tell the truth at all. They wouldn't know the truth if it bit them in the face. And that's honestly what I believe. Now, I want to show you something else here. We have two red quakes here, right? The red quakes indicate aftershocks that have happened within the last 40 minutes. This earthquake directly south of there, this aftershock, is a 5.2 earthquake, large 5.2 earthquake. The earthquake just to the north there is another 5.0 earthquake. This earthquake was 6.2 miles deep. This earthquake was 22.5 miles deep. What's the difference? The difference is simple. Compared to 6.2 miles deep and 22 miles deep, we're talking about nearly 16 inches. Or 16 feet, I'm sorry, 16 feet. Let's go further south here. This is also 6.2 miles deep. This is 14.3 miles deep. Closer to the earthquake here, we have a 4.7 that is 21 or 22 miles deep. Notice what we're talking about? Depth. Depth has a great deal to do with this earthquake. This was the 8.8. This was 12, almost 13 miles deep. 12.9 miles deep. That's significant. That's significant. Again, down here to the south is a 6.3, also 6.2 miles deep. Now, I want to show you this because I want to talk about it for a few minutes. This earthquake was a subduction earthquake. A subduction earthquake. The Pacific plate went underneath the westerly plate here. Now, I don't know what this plate is called that Russia sits on. For all intents and purposes, it can be called the North Russian plate. But this is a subduction earthquake. What else happened here? What else happened here on Kamchatka Peninsula last night because of that quake? I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you right now. You need to understand what's going on here. Okay? What else happened? Can you guess what happened? Kliuchevskoye volcano blew up. Kliuchevskoye volcano is the highest volcano in the world. The highest, tallest volcano in the world. And it erupted last night. Let me play this video for you. This video has no audio. Again, this video has no audio. I'm going to play it for you now. You'll see Kliuchevskoye erupting. Look at that. Pieces of lava flying up into the air. This is an aerial view looking down into the crater here. Lava came down the western side of the volcano here. Western flank of the volcano. Red hot molten lava poured out. Cleochesco volcano started erupting after the earthquake in the Kamchatka region, almost directly after the earthquake hit. Cleochesco has erupted. Cleochesco volcano has erupted before. It's going to continue erupt off and on for a while. This eruption again followed the 8.8 earthquake just offshore from Kamchatka Peninsula. Scientists reported streams of burning lava descending down the western slope of the volcano. Russian Academy of Sciences United Geophysical Service described explosions, ash plumes, and a powerful glow above the crater. Now, in just a second, you're going to see one of their scientists put something in the hot lava, and you're going to watch it burn. Cleochesco volcano stands at 4,050 meters, 15,584 feet high. The volcano previously erupted in 2023. This eruption marks its return to activity following the recent seismic buildup. Look at this. This person sat something down inside the lava on the side of the volcano and it burned. Even though that lava had cooled somewhat and was gray in color, it was still hot enough to burn. Lava and pyroclastic flows were mainly reported on the western face or the slope of the mountain. Well, this is going to go on for days. Cleochesco volcano usually erupts for days. We will continue keeping you up to date on what's going on as we get information. But again, Cleochesco volcano erupted on the Kamchatka Peninsula right after the earthquake hit. Almost immediately after the earthquake hit, it erupted. Like I said, it's going to continue to erupt for days, maybe even weeks. That's typical of what we see here at this volcano. Okay? Yes, I will be taking questions throughout our presentation tonight. Trish Killian calls it beautiful. Yes, volcanic eruptions can be beautiful. I've seen a lot of eruptions of volcanoes throughout my lifetime. Not personally have I seen it, but I've seen pictures. I've also seen video from the eruptions. Again, this is going to be happening for some time now. Okay? Now, that tsunami affected Russia as well. 4,000 workers from the Fukushima nuclear power plant evacuated the power plant as a safety precaution, and there were no damage reports. There were no injuries and no damage reports at all over in Japan. However, Japan incurred a tsunami there. Okay, that was all from that particular video here. Now I'm going to continue this on. I'm going to continue with this presentation. Now, what we've seen is a tsunami. Okay, what we've seen is a tsunami. The tsunami is continuing. Okay, before I get through showing you all of the videos I want to show you so you get a firm handle on exactly what happened last night, I want to show you the tsunami warning. Again, this came from my friends over at the Emergency Management Office at Hilo and also over at Maui. There was one of our friends here on the chat last night who lives in Florida, and her husband was over on Maui. That's one of the reasons I pulled this information. Okay? Now, all the information we had was there was going to be a tsunami, and the Hawaiian Islands were directly in the path of the tsunami. The tsunami waves itself, wraps itself around the islands. Yes, there's about a 3 to 3.5 foot tsunami wave. And every island evacuated their citizens that were on, citizens and or tourists that were on the beach or ocean level. They evacuated them to higher ground, even to some of the tops of the hotel high rises over in Honolulu. Okay? I want to show you this because we need to remember this forever and ever. Okay? When you have a tsunami warning, Be advised, a destructive tsunami is expected. Evacuated red areas. If you are in an evacuation area and the news people in your area have declared that this is a red evacuation area, you need to get out of Dodge. Evacuation maps are on literally all of the walls of every hotel and every business in Hawaii. Okay? Get an evacuation map, go to the 4th floor or higher of any building. Get out of Dodge if you're not. The highways and byways all over the islands, Honolulu, Maui, Kauai, and over on the Big Island. All the highways were very busy and bumper to bumper, getting people out of Dodge before the tsunami wave arrived. Fortunately for Hawaii, they were about 4 hours out. They had plenty of time to evacuate from the tsunami wave. It was only like 3.5 feet high. In just a few minutes, I'm going to show you information what happened in Hawaii last night. Okay? Be advised, some of this is very graphic. This is one of the other graphics I pulled up from Russia and the Philippines. The tsunami from the Russia quake was expected to hit the Philippines this afternoon. Approximately 3:45 Philippine time this afternoon. That was the other issue. Let's go over and pick up an earthquake report from KTLA News in Los Angeles. This is also important.
And we begin with developing news from Hawaii. All evacuation orders have been lifted there after tsunami waves reached the islands. It happened after a magnitude 8.8 earthquake rocked a sparsely populated part of eastern Russia yesterday. People in Hawaii were told to move to higher ground. It caused gridlock on the streets of Honolulu. Waves on the Big Island of Hawaii reached nearly 6 feet. KTLA's Eric Spillman in the newsroom with more. Eric, good morning.
Morning, Frank. Looks like the worst is over. So far, there are no reports of major damage from tsunami waves, although some parts of the world are still under a tsunami advisory. We'll get to that in just a minute. But first, let's talk about the earthquake that started all of this. It was an 8.8 magnitude earthquake. It struck off of Russia's far eastern coast at 11:30 a.m. local time, which is about 4:30 p.m. yesterday, our time. It may have been the strongest earthquake anywhere in the world since a magnitude 9.0 earthquake hit Japan in March of 2011. This 8.8 magnitude quake off of Russia may have been the 6th largest quake ever recorded on Earth. Talk about some violent shaking. Look what happened in this kitchen, and it seemed to go on for a long time, as long as 40 seconds. At one Russian hospital, doctors were in the middle of conducting surgery when the quake hit. They held the patient down and waited for it to be over. The quake did not cause severe damage because this part of Russia is so lightly populated, but it did cause some. The facade of a kindergarten building collapsed. The school was unoccupied at the time. No children were inside, so nobody was hurt. Along the coast, some exposed cliffs collapsed into the ocean, creating huge clouds of dust, and the quake sent tsunami waves into other parts of Russia. I want to show you some pictures now from the remote Kamchatka Peninsula. That's the area closest to the quake's epicenter. Authorities say 4 tsunami waves passed through the town of Severo-Kurilsk. There was flooding and some damage to port infrastructure and ships. Some coastal buildings were inundated. Also, tsunami warnings and advisories were issued for Japan, Hawaii, and the U.S. West Coast. In Japan, authorities declared a tsunami alert. Something like 2 million people were told to move to higher ground. Areas along the ocean were evacuated. Look at what some people did. They moved to the rooftop of a building and waited there. Yeah, I would say that fits the definition of higher ground. Elsewhere in Japan, some train service was suspended. Tsunami waves did arrive, but they were smaller than expected, and they caused no significant damage. As a precaution, workers evacuated low-lying parts of the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, which was wrecked by a tsunami more than 14 years ago. This is what it sounded like on Hawaii's Waikiki Beach when the sirens went off for the tsunami warning there. In Honolulu, you had traffic jams as people rushed to evacuate areas along the ocean. Hawaii's Department of Emergency Management warned of destructive tsunami waves and urged people to seek higher ground inland. On the Big Island, Kailua Kona looked like a ghost town. Streets and shopping areas emptied out, and residents and tourists moved to safer places at higher elevation. Turns out there were some waves peaking at more than 5 feet, but they did not cause any damage. Back in Waikiki, in the high-rise hotels, tourists waited out the tsunami warning by having a tsunami party.
The vibes are high.
Party on the 23rd floor. I think it's still going on. Hawaii's tsunami warning has been downgraded to an advisory.
Okay, that hotel that you see right there is the Outrigger Hotel. I stayed on the 22nd floor in 1994. That's in Waikiki.
That means there could still be dangerous ocean currents, but not widespread flooding. Party on in Hawaii.
Nobody believed me at first.
Party on in Hawaii. Now, the largest tsunami waves have already hit Hawaii. Like I said, it was 3.5 feet high. Let's go on to further reports here. This is James Torres talking about Moss Landing in Monterey County, California.
Well, good morning to you both. Monterey County is the only county in the Northern California area that still has these evacuation warnings in place. They say for the most part, it's just a precaution for now. I want to show you where we are. We are at Moss's Landing here on the Monterey coast. This is where you see dozens of boats docked here. Nothing really that is showing you any obvious signs that a tsunami came to this area or is affecting this area right now, but we know from the National Weather Service that those small waves, while small, will still be activated for several hours now, and that's why you still have that tsunami advisory in place at the moment. But these boats still remain calm, the water's still looking like glass, and the waves that we are seeing around here on the actual ocean, only about 1 to 2 feet above what you would normally see. But the National Weather Service saying this is far from over. We will not expect to see any catastrophic damage. That's the good news this morning. But the pushing and the pulling of the water, that is enough to bring concerns, especially for people who dock their boats at these nearby harbors. We'll take you up to Santa Cruz. That's about 30 minutes up north from where we are. It's an area with a history of damage from major natural disasters. We'll take you back to 2011, where a 9.0 magnitude earthquake struck Japan, rippling tidal waves thousands of miles away, reaching all the way to the California coast and causing more than $20 million worth of damage to the harbor, to the Santa Cruz harbor, and destroying the boats docked there. That's why we talked to some folks in the area who say they immediately came to their boats to check it out and make sure they can prevent what they've seen before.
A lot of sunken boats hitting other boats, and the docks were all torn up, and yeah, just don't want to see it again. The harbor keeps getting hurt and cost everybody a lot of money.
Now, those initial tsunami waves hit the Northern California coast before midnight. The Bay Area, as well as the Santa Cruz and Monterey coast, saw waves hit just before about 1 a.m. And they're still reporting some tidal deviation hours later. That's a quick push and pull of some of the waves here. That is what they're concerned about if you are in the water, because they worry that could be creating some currents that are too dangerous for people to be in. Taking you back live out here on the Monterey coast. Here's a look at the water. It's basically the inlet before the ocean. Again, not too much activity to see here, but we have noticed sometimes the water will change speed, change direction. There's a little bit of evidence that a tsunami is somewhat in the area. area, but is it going to cause any pain or destruction? Likely not. Now, these evacuation warnings here in Monterey County, they will remain until the tsunami advisory is lifted. The National Weather Service is warning you or anyone on the coast, be sure to stay away from the coastline, stay out of the water for now until those local officials tell you that everything is good to go.
Okay, remember that. Remember this. Stay away from the coastline until the authorities have issued a green go. Until they have issued an all clear notice, stay away from the coastlines after a tsunami has hit. Or even if they have issued a tsunami warning, stay away from the coast until the authorities give an all clear. Remember that. That one warning could save your life. Okay? Let me also show you something else. This is the National Tsunami Buoy Center. Look at this. The tsunami buoys are still in alert mode. The buoys off the Kamchatka Peninsula coast of Russia over on the left-hand side. Then the buoys go up and through the Aleutian Islands, up into Alaska, over into the Gulf of Alaska. Then they come down the southeastern portion of Alaska near the Yakutat Peninsula, down along the coast of Canada, over towards, let me pull this up here so I can show you exactly what's going on here. Let me zoom in here. The tsunami buoys are still ongoing, even off the California coast down here. Look at this. All the way up here into Seattle, Washington, Vancouver, British Columbia, Vancouver Island, all the tsunami buoys here. Down over near the Juan de Fuca Fault, down over here into the Strait of Juan de Fuca here. Okay, and even down the coastline to Oregon, and even down into California. The tsunami warning buoys are still going off. What does that tell you? What does this tell everybody? The ocean floor is still changing. These tsunami buoys are chained to the ocean floor. When these tsunami buoys are in activation mode, that only means that the ocean floor is still in activity. It's still moving. Okay? I want to show you this for a reason. Now we go over here to the Kamchatka Peninsula here. Okay? Still going on. Come over here to Japan. The tsunami buoys are still in activation mode here. Also down into the Izu Islands here. Still in activation mode. Okay? All the way down over here into Indonesia here. Tsunami buoys are in activation mode. Right here, the Philippines. You see the Philippines buoys are still also in activation mode. Okay, let's back out a little bit. Doesn't end. Let's go over here to the Banda Sea and also over here into the Indian Ocean, just northwest of Australia. The tsunami buoys are still in activation mode here. Over on the east coast of Australia, the tsunami buoys are still in activation mode here. All the way over to the Solomon Islands. Over here in the Fiji. We're here in Fiji. Going over here into Tonga and Samoa as well. We're not done. The tsunami buoys are still in activation mode. We're here on the southwest side of New Zealand. Still moving. We're not done. This whole area is still in activation mode because the seabed is moving. Okay, why? Why would the seabed be moving? We just got through having nearly a 9.0 magnitude earthquake, one of the strongest earthquakes in our written history. The seabed is still moving. The seabed is still adjusting, trying to get back to where it was before the earthquake. That's why the sea buoys still are moving in activation mode. Do we have any questions? Do we have any questions? All right. Let's take a look at hurricanes over here. We've got two hurricanes over here in the Central Pacific. Okay, these are south of Hawaii. There's Hurricane, was it? I'm sorry. We have two hurricanes here. Gosh. I've got this here. Hold on a second. We got Hurricane Iona, I-O-N-A, and Hurricane Keely. Hurricane Iona and Hurricane Keely. Hurricane Iona is a Cat 1 storm. A Cat 1 storm. Winds of 75 miles per hour. It's going westbound at 20 miles per hour through the ocean. Hurricane Iona is 3,054 miles away. 3,054 miles away. Hurricane Keely, K-E-L-I. Hurricane Keely is going at about 40 miles per hour. It's right now it's rated as a tropical storm. It's not a hurricane. Tropical storm Keely, K-E-L-I. It's going through the Pacific Ocean here at 40 miles per hour, and it's headed westbound at approximately 21 miles per hour. Her tropical storm Keely is approximately 2,725 miles away. 2,725 miles away. These storms are going to turn deadly. They're going to turn deadly. Let me put this information up on a screen here so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, this isn't, like I said, this is in the Central Pacific. Okay, first Hurricane Iona. Okay, 3,054 miles away, 987 megabytes, or not megabytes, I'm sorry, millibars, 987 millibars. This is getting to be a powerful storm. It is a Cat 1 storm. Tropical storm Keely, K-E-L-I. It's going at the winds are at approximately 40 miles per hour at 35 knots. It's rolling westbound at 21 miles per hour. It's located offshore approximately 2,725 miles away. It's presently at 1,006 millibars. It's not a powerful storm at all. It's not a powerful storm at all. Hurricane Iona is at 987 millibars. That's a powerful Cat 1 storm. See what I mean? Between 1,000 millibars to 987 millibars. Lower pressure means hurricane strength. Right now, Keely is just a tropical storm. You need to remember that. We're going to be watching the storm for several days now, going into this next weekend. Now, things could rapidly change between now and Friday or now on Saturday. Keely could become a hurricane. There's a 60% chance that Keely will become a hurricane. Iona is going to increase in strength, probably up to Cat 2 or Cat 3 before it's over. Any other questions about these storms? Hurricane Heather's here. She's our go-to hurricane expert. She says Iona is a tropical storm now. Keely is a remnant low. That means Iona has lost its strength. Iona has lost its strength. Hurricane Heather, what is the millibar rating for tropical storm Iona? It's no longer a hurricane. Hurricanes are down when the winds are at 65 to 75 miles per hour, and the millibar rating goes down into the 900 level, meaning very low pressure. Hurricane Heather, do you know what millibar rating that Iona is in? Now, I picked this graphic up earlier about 1 p.m. today. So things have changed since 1 p.m. today. Hurricane Heather says it's 994 millibars, meaning the pressure is rising. That is why Iona is no longer a hurricane. Okay? The pressure has risen and the winds have decreased rapidly. That's what's happened here. Thanks, Heather, for that information. We appreciate it. Okay? Now, I've got more information here. Okay? Got a lot more information here. The tsunami is not over. Again, the tsunami is supposed to be hitting the Philippines about right now. Let me play this video for you today, right now.
Tsunami advisories, as we discussed, in effect across the West Coast and even into Northern California, a tsunami warning, the far northern part there. This after a powerful 8.8 magnitude earthquake off the coast of Russia Tuesday afternoon. We're tracking impacts on the Washington coast. Join us this morning, the director of the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network, Dr. Harold Tobin, a friend of Good Day Seattle. Thank you for joining us. Harold, no major damage in Hawaii. Their evacuation orders have been lifted. Advisory still in effect. I mean, what do you think of the situation this morning? What do people need to know?
Yeah, I mean, it's very encouraging that it looks like the worst case scenarios for this event haven't come to pass. The size of earthquake that happened and the position of it meant that these tsunami advisories and alerts were absolutely warranted. So far, looks like we've dodged the worst. As you've said just before, in Washington, the advisory is still in place, and there's still the possibility of currents, surges, and especially harbors and marinas. But yeah, looking good so far.
And is it still true that we're not expecting that advisory at this point to be extended to other places? It's not in effect for Everett, Seattle, Tacoma. What do you think is next with this advisory situation?
Yeah, I imagine what's most likely is that the advisory will stay in place for some more hours and they'll watch the tide gauges and then cancel it when the all clear is ready. But no, I don't expect it to be extended to any more areas, and I would be really surprised if the alert level was upgraded at all at this point.
All right, that's a good breakdown. Now, Harold, this happened, in Russia, and we had many hours of a heads up. But if the big one happens off of the Cascadia subduction zone off of our coast, a tsunami could be very imminent afterwards. What does that hypothetical look like?
Yeah, this earthquake is kind of a mirror image of the Cascadia subduction zone on the other side of the Pacific. It's also a subduction zone. It's the same kind of earthquake that the Cascadia could be, 8.8. could very easily be the kind of scale we're at. And the nearby coast was affected by up to something like, 25 or 30 feet high tsunami surges, very damaging in Kamchatka, Russia. So Cascadia would be similar if the earthquake happened here. And then the tsunami arrival time after the earthquake at the coastline is only a matter of, depending on where you are, anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes or so, just a very short period of time for people to actually evacuate from the hazard zone.
So we have, alerts that would be sent out to your phone, lots of work going around with the Shake app, and then, sirens, emergency plans along the coast. Do you think we have all the infrastructure in place for these coastal communities if the big one happens?
Well, unfortunately, we absolutely don't have all the infrastructure in place. There are many regions where actually evacuating would be really challenging. You can imagine the immediate gridlock and bottlenecks in some places. There are parts of our coastal communities where evacuation to higher ground really isn't possible. We need those what are called vertical evacuation structures, fortified buildings, or even special purpose towers that people can go up instead of away in order to get away from the tsunami. We're just beginning to be able to have that equipment and infrastructure here in Washington State, and we have a long way to go, unfortunately. I will say, though, that the earthquake itself is the best advance warning. All those alerts you mentioned are important features, but if you feel very strong shaking and you're by the sea at the coast, it's important to move to higher ground.
Yeah, people need to have their emergency plan, know what they would do in that type of scenario. Now, something that isn't talked about maybe often enough in media is that the Seattle fault here would be even more devastating for us than if a big one was to go off along the subduction zone. Is that right? And what would those impacts look like here?
Yeah, here in Seattle and in the population centers in Puget Sound, the faults like the Seattle fault, and there's another called the Tacoma fault, have less frequent earthquakes, but they really are our sort of worst case event scenario. The shaking will be very strong for a Seattle fault earthquake, and it could potentially produce a localized tsunami inside the sound, which would have really damaging effects along the shoreline. Fortunately, those events seem to be quite rare. The last one was apparently more than 1,000 years ago, but there's the possibility of a future Seattle fault event, and that's another thing we need to prepare for.
If a Seattle fault earthquake happens, what do people need to do in the city? How far away would they need to get for higher ground?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, number one, drop cover and hold on. The shaking will be strong, and we want people to make themselves safe during the actual earthquake shaking. In a scenario like that, then the tsunami would actually arrive very quickly because, of course, Elliott Bay and the Sound is a pretty enclosed small area. What it means is get to, whatever you can, 30 feet above the waterline. It doesn't mean the whole city has to go to the top of the hill. Fortunately, we have a lot of hills. We have a lot of topography in Seattle. We can get to higher ground, but 30 feet above sea level, 100 feet above sea level is a reasonable, truly safe distance, and for many of us that's only a few blocks inland away from the water's edge.
Oh my gosh, this is such helpful information. Dr. Harold Tobin, Director of the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. I'll go ahead and send it back to you.
Okay, that's what could happen if Seattle gets hit by that big earthquake. That's one reason why I included this information. Yes, they talked about the tsunami last night and this morning, but Phil Tobin addressed when the Cascadia earthquake hits, what's going to happen to Seattle and the surrounding area. That's important information. That's very important information. Let's continue this. I believe I have one more program to show you here. This comes out of Fox News, Fox Live this morning. This is important.
Here at 7-Eleven on the East Coast, we do want to get back to the very latest of that massive earthquake that triggered a global tsunami warnings. Take a look at your screen, the latest video that has been compiled from across the globe. Tsunami waves continue across the Pacific this Wednesday after impacting Hawaii, and they begin to slam the coasts of Washington, California, and Oregon early this Wednesday morning. In California, a tsunami with a 3.6-foot wave amplitude was reported in Crescent City, with a 3-foot wave amplitude in Arena Cove. A 1.6-foot wave amplitude was reported in Point Reyes, and a 1.4-foot wave amplitude was reported in Monterey. And as we are discussing California, I want to share with you the very latest from the National Weather Service San Diego. They put this out on X early this Wednesday. They say the first tsunami waves have reached La Jolla shores as of 1:45 a.m., registering around 0.36 feet.
Okay, I want to pause it there. Notice 0.36 feet. That's 3 inches. Just over 3 inches in La Jolla, California, in central San Diego County. 3 inches in La Jolla. That is a very small wave.
For areas upstream, the first waves haven't been the biggest, with arrival of additional waves for 6 or more hours after the initial wave. So just providing some context with that. We also have the very latest from the National Weather Service Bay Area on X as well. They say same story with San Francisco, where we are now seeing tidal swings of 2 to 2.5 feet in as little as 15 minutes. They can create some seriously dangerous currents along beaches and harbors. It's just a good idea to stay away from the water today. Great advice there. And as we are discussing the Bay Area, I want to give you a live look there. 7:12 here on the East Coast, 4:13 Pacific time, and you can see a live look at the waterways. Just want to provide that live look for you so you can see what many are calling the calm before the storm. And as we continue to get the latest from the National Weather Service, we now transition to the National Weather Service Los Angeles on X, as they say the Port St. Louis gauge shows a rapid and damaging surge going from low to high tide in just a few minutes. They say do not return to inundated areas as waters will recede, but could return multiple times through the next 24 hours, and the first wave may not be the largest. As we are discussing that from the LA area, we do have this live look. It takes us out to the Santa Monica Pier, giving you a live look there. Now, we're also getting the very latest from areas including Seattle. Their National Weather Service putting out an alert on X as well. They say, quote, we continue to see tsunami waves arrive along the coast as well as Strait of Juan de Fuca. Reminder, do not attempt to go to the shore to observe the tsunami waves. Great advice there. As we know, onlookers like to get that close look, but it's not the safest. They go on to say, quote, keep away until local officials say it is safe to return. And speaking of Seattle, we do have a live look there now at 7:14 on the East Coast. We'll continue to give you live looks across the West Coast and any.
Okay, that is a report out of Los Angeles, Fox News Live, showing you exactly what's going on from Seattle south into San Diego County. Huge information. Huge information. Now, I want to address some things that have come up here in chat. Charlene was talking about the pole shift. Today's discussion has nothing to do with the pole shift. I want to caution everyone in chat, do not mock me. I want you to talk about what we're talking about right now, not what you're talking about, pole shift or anything else. We want to discuss those things that are going on right now. Shirley's talking about, Ron, the weight of this incoming tsunami water on the shores, subduction plate, would this weight not affect the trigger of the coastal quakes? How is this weight transferred into the plates? Yes, Charlene, the weight of the water could trigger small earthquakes or tremors up and down the coastline. Could trigger small quakes up and down the entire coastline. Why? There are earthquake faults. There are earthquake faults all over the place. There are earthquake faults everywhere. So the weight of the water incoming into the shoreline could cause tremors up and down the entire coastline. I want everybody to realize that. Okay? I want everybody to realize what's going on here. Yes, the weight of the water could trigger it. However, you would have to have a earthquake fault there along the coastline. Yes, there are some earthquake faults along the coastline. There are some earthquake faults along the coastline. Now, for example, let's take Seattle for a good example here. Seattle, all over the place, up and down the entire coastline, the Strait of Juan de Fuca. In fact, let me bring up the USGS map again. I want to show you the Strait of Juan de Fuca here on the USGS map. I want you to realize what we're talking about and where we're going here. Let's bring this out. This is the Strait of Juan de Fuca. Water comes off the Pacific Ocean here into the Strait of Juan de Fuca. Yes, there are tremors, or not tremors, there are earthquake faults up and down the coastline, north, south, east, and west. The weight of the water could trigger an earthquake. The possibility is it could. It could. Will it? We don't know. We don't know, but it could trigger it. Absolutely. Scientists are looking at that. They've been looking at it for a long time. The first time I heard them talk about that was about 4 years ago. They are looking at that. Okay. Sleeping Volcano and also Richard Smith are putting up earthquakes that are happening around the globe. Sleeping Volcano just talked about east of the Kuril Islands, a 5.6 earthquake happened 15 minutes ago. Okay, this is going to continue to happen. These earthquakes over there off of Kamchatka Peninsula, going down here into the Kuril Islands. The Kamchatka Peninsula is here, and this area are the Kuril Islands. Yes, we're going to have tremors. We're going to see earthquakes in this area. As the earth tries to recover itself back to where it was before the earthquake, that recovery is going to cause tremors and earthquakes. The earth is going to try to get back to where it was. When that happens, it's going to cause earthquakes again. It caused earthquakes getting into the situation it's in right now. It's going to cause more quakes coming here in the future. And I'm talking, this earthquake was an 8.8 earthquake, major 8.8 magnitude earthquake. It's going to take days, weeks, months, and possibly even years for the ground to restabilize the way it was before it happened. Now, I'm going to tell you this also. The ground may not be able to get back to the position it was in before the earthquake happened. It may not be able to do that, which in this case, the earth may continue to shake because the earth is still going to slip. The earth is still going to slip in that area. It's going to slip here. It's going to slip here. Now, there was some discussion by one of my colleagues earlier today. One of my colleagues said that they expected this 8.8 magnitude seismic load here. Yes, it's a load, but they expected it to move south. I don't think it will. All my studies have indicated that once we have an earthquake hit, the seismic energy is going to move north. That seismic energy is going to move north. In this case, it's going to move up here to the Aleutian Island Fault Zone, Aleutian Island Trench. Okay? Then it's going to come over here through the trench, all the way through the Aleutian Island Trench. Now, as it moves, it may cause big, very strong, large earthquakes here through the Aleutian Islands. Okay? As this seismic energy travels through the Aleutian Islands, it's going to cause earthquakes as it moves. We need to expect that to happen. We've seen that happen in the past. I do not believe that that seismic energy is going to move south. Yes, we are already seeing tremors going south from there. But you got to remember this. What happened last night was an 8.8 major earthquake. The ground moved very significantly in this area. Now the ground is trying to get back to where it was. That's why we have these aftershocks here. Okay? So the ground is going to take a long time to recover from this quake here. But again, the seismic energy is going to come up here to the Aleutian Islands over here on the west side. It's going to travel eastbound through the Aleutian Island Trench here, all the way over here into Alaska. Right here. This is a 3.5 small quake. This is south of Falls Pass, Alaska. Okay, right here. This is another 3.7 small quake, both of them. This is the 3.7 small quake. This is south of Sandpoint, Alaska. These two earthquakes themselves may be possibly aftershocks of that major 7.4 earthquake that hit here back about a week and a half ago. Aftershocks. We're going to see more and more earthquakes here. We are going to see more and more earthquakes throughout this whole area. I want everybody to realize what's going on. We take down our banner. I'm sorry I didn't have this taken out before. I took down our webcam as well. This is going to happen, guys. We're going to see more and more earthquakes here. Now, as I explained to one of my colleagues, the seismic energy could come up here to Anchorage again. Okay? Back in the summer of 2019, we saw a 7.1 earthquake here in Anchorage. This may happen again. We know for a fact that the seismic energy is locked up here around the Anchorage area. So any added seismic energy that comes in here could trigger a much larger earthquake here. The citizens of Alaska must know this. They must know this because they need to prepare and prepare now. Now is the time to get their emergency preparedness kits ready. Now is the time for everyone. Everyone, guys. I'm not just talking to this population, the citizens and residents of Alaska. All of you that are listening to this program today, you need to have an emergency preparedness plan, and that plan must cover every kind of emergency that you can think of that could happen in your particular area. Whether it's earthquakes, whether it is weather, tornadoes, rain, flooding, whether it is landslides, whether it is hurricanes, winter weather, you need to be prepared and prepared right now. You need to prepare right now. Yes, it could be earthquakes. It could be any of these weather-related things I've told you. But also, all of these major cities, including Anchorage, has a petroleum refinery plant. Storage tanks. Guys, in many cases, the residents around those storage tanks were built long before the storage tanks came in. The developers of that land should never, I'm going to repeat, never, they never should have built those storage tanks and refineries next to residences. If that didn't happen and the developers put in homes right next to these refineries, that is so wrong. Because when we get a major earthquake, it's going to break the gas lines, it's going to break the water lines and water mains. There's going to be fire here. There's going to be fire. Because of the fire, there's not going to be any water available because the water mains are also going to be broken. Okay? It's going to be a bad state of affairs. It's happened before, it's going to happen again. We've seen it. Okay? You need to have a plan written. You need to have a plan written. You need to have your emergency preparedness kit as well. Food, water, guys. Here again in North Carolina is 98 degrees and it's got about 60% humidity. Yes, we are again expecting a storm to hit tonight. Another thunderstorm, rainstorm to hit tonight. Okay, it can happen. Each one of us need to be prepared. Make sure you have your preparedness kit with food and water. Make sure you also have clothing, shoes, tools to help you, tools to fix your car with. You also need a first aid kit. You need to have the medicines that you take on a daily basis. Whether it's insulin or heart medication or whatever it might be, you need to have that medication also. Make sure you put that in your emergency preparedness kit. That way you're ready to go when something happens. Okay, you need to have it. I've talked about this over the last many years. I'm going to address this again. You need to have a preparedness kit. You need to have water. You need to have food. You need to have clothing, bedding for yourself, your family, and also for your animals. Don't forget that. Your dogs, cats, and other animals. Make sure they have their favorite toy, their favorite bed, and their favorite blanket. If you don't do that for your kids and your animals, you're going to have some very irate kids and animals. Make sure you take care of them and they will take care of you. Okay? It's important. If it was not important, I wouldn't talk about it. But again, I'm expecting a major earthquake to hit Alaska, either up here near the Anchorage, the city capital of Anchorage here, or something else. The energy could come off the Aleutian Island Trench here up into the Gulf of Alaska. We've seen it happen before. There was a major earthquake years ago that hit Valdez, Alaska, as well as a huge ship that emptied its oil into Valdez. There's been a major earthquake here before. It's going to happen again. Okay? If the seismic energy doesn't stop here, it's going to go over here to southeast Alaska. It may go down south here along the Haida Fault Zone. The Haida Fault Zone. The Haida Fault Zone right here is just as bad. It is just as bad as the Cascadia Fault Zone, the Cascadia Subduction Zone fault. As I said last week, this fault zone just west of Haida Gwaii is closer to shore than the Cascadia Megathrust Earthquake Fault Zone. Okay? What does that mean? That means this destructive earthquake that's going to happen off of Haida Gwaii, it's going to hit Haida Gwaii more squarely. It's just barely offshore. So when this Cascadia-like earthquake hits off of Haida Gwaii, there's not going to be anywhere to go. It'll hit almost immediately, and within minutes, there's going to be death and destruction. They're saying because it's so close to shore, the tsunami wave will hit within just minutes instead of 10 or 15 or 20 minutes later. It'll hit within minutes. All of you need to be prepared. Yes, we have people here in Haida Gwaii that watch this program. We have people all over British Columbia, Canada that watch this program. I'm not saying anything I haven't said before. Okay? But again, the seismic energy coming out from the Russian quake may very well come this way. May very well come this way just offshore from Vancouver Island. For sure, the Cascadia Megathrust earthquake is going to occur offshore from the Juan de Fuca Strait, offshore from the Strait of Juan de Fuca. It's going to hit between the Cascadia subduction zone and the Juan de Fuca fault. This zigzag fault line is called the Juan de Fuca fault. Major earthquakes can happen. They expect, as you saw in that earthquake report earlier, they expect we're going to have at least a 8.8 to 9.0 earthquake. It's going to be at least an 8.8 to 9.0 earthquake, and could also go up to 10. Could reach an earthquake strength of 10 on the Richter scale. The largest earthquake that we've ever seen here in written history. Okay, it's going to happen right here. That seismic energy is going to go down the coast here as well. It's going to go down the coast and affect every coastal community here on the West Coast. From Seattle and Ocean Shores, Washington, all of the other cities and towns appear in the Puget Sound area. We talked about this before. You guys are also going to feel this. You may have been hit with a tsunami this last 24 hours. But when the Cascadia megathrust earthquake hit, the tsunami is going to hit within 15 to 20 minutes. Just like it's done over on the Kamchatka Peninsula. Flooding the area. Flooding the area. Now, you saw what happened in the Kamchatka Peninsula. The population is few and far in between. Wasn't a lot of people there, or things could be much worse. Here along the coastline of British Columbia, Canada, we have major cities here. Major cities. And when these earthquakes come, and the lava flows, and the rains come in, it's going to devastate this whole area, all the way down the coastline to California and beyond. I'm not kidding about this. I'm not kidding at all. If you don't believe me, all bets are off. All bets would be off. It's going to happen. There's going to be a major earthquake here. I can promise you. It's now been over 224 days. Okay? 324 days. Actually, I'm sorry, 324 years past due. 324 years past due. Okay? Are we prepared or not? Are we prepared or not? Down here in the southern Cascadia subduction zone region, right here on the west side of the Cascadia subduction zone fault, we had a 4.5 earthquake here this morning. A 4.5 earthquake here this morning. This is just barely offshore. 46 miles offshore. Nobody felt it. The Pacific Ocean waters have absorbed the shock waves. But folks, this 4.5 earthquake it may have been part of this tsunami. The tsunami may have caused this earthquake, is what I'm saying. We don't know. We don't know. But this is right alongside of the Cascadia Megathrust Earthquake Fault region. Cascadia Megathrust Fault Zone region. You need to understand what's going on. That's why I'm telling you. Everybody must be prepared for whatever happens. You need to be prepared for whatever happens. Now, the rest of my program is going to specifically deal with Southern California right here. Southern California right here. And I'm talking from the Garlic Fault south into San Diego and the Imperial Valley to the border of Mexico. We've had earthquakes here. But of course, the USBS is not owning up to all the earthquakes. They don't want to admit there's issues over here. They don't want us to know what's going on. I'm about to tell you what's happened. Everybody needs to be aware. They're not telling the truth at all. Not at all. This earthquake out here to the northeast, Monrovia, California, this is a 1.1 tremor. Over here to the north coast, this is Camarillo, California. The Camarillo seismogram does not show this earthquake. The Camarillo seismogram does not show this earthquake. It's a 1.6 tremor. I checked. This just goes to show you the agency does not record all the earthquakes, number one. Number two, they don't want them to get to the map because they would have a problem there. What if someone wants to bug out from their home? And they go out to Camarillo, California. And Camarillo's had so many aftershocks of the earthquake that it's going to happen here in Los Angeles. That water mains or water lines are moved, non-operational. Then you're going to be out of luck. You're going to be out of luck. What I'm suggesting, if you're going to have to bug out, you need to have a bug out plan written into your plan, your emergency preparedness plan. Address everything. You need to have maps. You may not see earthquakes on your device. You need to find those earthquakes before it happens, before you leave your home, because you may not be able to get into the places you wanted to schedule to be there. That's always why you need to have at least 3 places scheduled for you to go when something like this happens. Okay? You need to schedule yourself for a place to be. 3 different places, 3 different routes to get there. Stay off main highways. Main highways may encounter blockades, may be blocked off by the police, the sheriff, the CIA, the FBI, whoever it might be. You may not be able to book out. You need to plan for everything. Everything needs a plan. Okay? Like you see, they're not showing many earthquakes at all here. Over here, southeast here, Beaumont, California. That's a 1.4 tremor. To the north, this is a 0.7 microquake. Not a big deal, huh? Not a big deal. I'm going to go into San Diego County. I'm going to go into Los Angeles. I'm going to go into the Imperial Valley over by the Mexican border. You need to know what's going on. Okay? I'm convinced that nobody has a clue. I'm convinced that nobody knows what's going on. Or you would be knocking my door down to find out why. Now, let's get off this USGS map. I'm going to put our webcam back up here. I want to show you what is happening in Los Angeles, Southern California. earthquake-wise. All of you that live here in Southern California must understand your risks. Must understand your risk for living there, number one. You must understand what you're going to go through once you're living there permanently. Maybe you're just going to visit. You still need to know what's going on. I'm telling you that right now. You need to know what's going on. Things may get very bad. I guarantee you things may get very bad. We have a mayor of Los Angeles that doesn't give a flying rat's butt about the citizenry of Los Angeles. They have a fire chief that is serious about it, but the fire department is recovering from a do-nothing fire chief and do-nothing mayor. They're trying to recover. You need to understand prices have risen. The governor of California, when the fires happened last year, the governor of California had a plan to raise over $1 million for people that had been displaced because of the fire. The wonderful governor of California took the money himself. He took the money himself to buy his multi-million-dollar home he now lives in. He took the money himself to give to non-governmental organizations. Non-governmental organizations. So Los Angeles is hurting. All of Southern California is hurting. People are still out of work. People are still out of their homes because of what Mayor Bass and Governor Newsom have done. Now, I urge all of you to get up off your laurels, and get to work. You need to take Mayor Karen Bass down to the ground. You need to strip her mayorship away from her. You need to do that to your governor as well. You need to get somebody involved with politics in your area that's going to protect you, that's going to work with you, that's going to allow you to rebuild your houses in Pacific Palisades and the other areas like El Monte, California, over in LA. You need to rebuild your homes. You have that right. You're an American. You have that right. Like I said, there's also earthquakes that are going to happen. They're already there. They're already there, guys. Whether you want to realize it or not. Things are happening. Things are happening. Let me show you the earthquakes are hitting. You need to be aware of it. The first thing I want to do is take you over to the Pacific Northwest to Mount St. Helens. Why I'm taking you there? What do you think? I want to show you what happened with the Russian earthquake over at Mount St. Helens last night. The same thing happened at Mount Rainier. The seismograph picked up the shaking in Russia. The seismograph at both Mount St. Helens and Mount Rainier picked up the shaking in Russia. You can see it here on the seismograph. Okay? Picked it up, recorded it. It's recorded for posterity here. Now, look what I have to show you. Yes, the seismograph also picked up earthquakes that hit here, but not as many earthquakes as normal. Not as many earthquakes as normal. Yes, they picked up some minor earthquakes. Yes, they picked up some tremors. But notice this. They stripped this seismogram clean, just barely showing some tremors here. It's only showing 2 minor earthquakes. There are 3.0s hitting Mount St. Helens today. They should be on this seismogram and they're not. That means the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network, the same gentleman that the Seattle affiliate had on their program to talk about earthquakes in the Washington, Oregon area. The same gentleman and his staff stripped the seismograph clean. The seismograph doesn't show anything. Doesn't show anything. Because they are lying to the public. They are totally lying to the public here. Yes, I'm going to get to Southern California in a minute. I want to show you this because I thought it was important. Okay? This is what it showed yesterday. Notice on this one here, they also stripped the earthquakes clean here. Yes, they're showing the Russia earthquake here. This is last night. Last night. It showed up on today's seismogram as well. Right there. Okay? But again, they don't want you to see squat. Or at Mount Rainier. Look at the top of this seismogram here. Mount Rainier, they're not showing hardly any activity at all. The top of this seismogram should show you what's going on. But again, they avoided off most of the activity here. They're just showing just a little bit of rumble here. They're not showing what the one down at Mount St. Helens is showing you. Look at the tremors and minor earthquakes that are happening here. These vertical lines are not just tremors, they're also steam signals. If you see a vertical line without a dot in it, it is steam. It's a steam signal. Mount Rainier and Mount St. Helens are steaming. 6 to 7% of magma is water. 6 to 7% of magma is water. That is why these volcanoes are steaming. You also see that one signal here in the bottom center of your screen here. That is what they call a magma churn signal. Magma churn signals are typically 23 to 24 lines high. 23 to 24 lines high. This particular churn signal is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines high. This one's 9 lines high. They usually get to be 8 lines high. They're supposed to be 24 lines high. Why? The agencies have shut down the seismographs. They've turned down the seismographs here. Turn it down. Turn it down where it's only showing about 33%, 33 to 35% of real world. So these earthquakes that you see here, these vertical lines with dots in them, those are actually large earthquakes, probably 3.0 earthquakes. This magma churn signal only happens when there is superheated magma. Superheated magma that is picked up by the seismograph and transmitted here on the seismogram itself. The seismogram is a graph that's put together by the seismograph. Okay? The seismograph is a machine. The seismogram is a sketch, a graph of what the machine tells it. That's what we're seeing here. The red lines off to the side of that magma churn signal, those are steam signals as well. Mount Rainier is steaming. Mount Rainier is still steaming. Mount Rainier and Mount St. Helens are getting ready to erupt. But again, the USGS and the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network don't want you to know what's going on. So they strip the seismograms of the information. They strip the seismograms of the information. Let's go over to California earthquakes now. Let's talk about Bakersfield, California here. Good old Bakersfield, California. Let me make this so you can see what I'm talking about here. Now, up at the top of this diagram is showing us what happened at 5 a.m. this morning. 5 a.m. this morning here in Bakersfield, California. This is on the outskirts of the county of LA, Bakersfield, California. What we're seeing here are 2.0 earthquakes up here on the top black line. 5 a.m. this morning. 2.0 earthquakes here. All the rest of these marks here are tremors. Most of this is just tremors here. Tremors here, Bakersfield, California. Yes, I'm talking about the deserts out here. Let's go over to Victorville, where one of our dear friends live, Aveyah's granny. Aveyah's granny is one of our mods on this channel. Aveyah's granny is also one of my best friends. What's going on here in Victorville? Victorville literally sits on the San Andreas Fault. Past episodes of this program during the past 2 weeks, we've addressed the San Andreas Fault and what's happening. The San Andreas Fault is ready to pull apart. The San Andreas Fault is ready to pull apart. It's going to pop. There's going to be a major earthquake here on the San Andreas Fault. Whether it's here in Victorville or places to the south, it's still going to happen. What we're seeing here in Victorville is just tremors. Tremors here. Where there's tremors, there's higher, large earthquakes. We're going to see that happen. Okay? Victorville, California. Let's go out to Lancaster, California. Also on the San Andreas Fault. Look at this, guys. Nothing but tremors. But the number of tremors has actually increased from what it was just last week, from what it was even weeks ago. The tremor activity here on the San Andreas Fault here is increasing. Lancaster, California. Now, I want to go over into the Los Angeles area. North of the city of Los Angeles, there is a smaller suburb called Del Amo, California. Look at this, guys. Del Amo, California is very busy. This is typically what we've seen here in Del Amo for the past couple of years. Yes, all we see here are tremors, but there also is some 2.0, 2.5 minor earthquakes. There are some 2.0 and 2.5 minor earthquakes here on this plot. If you look closely on these different lines, you'll see where we have a 2.0 and where we have a 2.5 earthquake. These are minor earthquakes. Minor earthquakes. Let's continue here. I'm going to take you over to Ellis, California. This is typically what we've seen at Ellis, sometimes more, sometimes a few earthquakes or tremors less. Over here on the right on the blue line. Over on the left, it's 6:30 on the blue line. Over here, this is 6:42, 6:43 this morning. We have some minor tremors. Then we have some minor tremors. Not minor tremors, but minor earthquakes. That's all we have. The tremors go from 0.2 or 1.2 all the way up to 2.5 earthquakes. Minor earthquakes. 6:42, 6:43, 6:44 a.m. this morning. Now, overall, you're going to see this same kind of energy. Minor tremors and minor earthquakes throughout this seismograph. This is Ellis, California. Down here at the bottom, okay, on the green line. Over and left on the green line at the bottom, this is 12:45 p.m. this afternoon. We go over 4 minutes. Suddenly we're at 12:49 p.m. this afternoon. 12:49 p.m. this afternoon. You're seeing a minor 2.0 earthquake. You can see 2.0s, you can see tremors, you can also see a 2.6, 2.7 earthquake over here to the right. Over here to the right. At approximately 12:57 p.m. today, we had a minor 2.7, 2.8 earthquake. The rest of these are just minor earthquakes and tremors all day long here. Okay? Ellis, California. Now, I want to take you out east to Mariloma. Mariloma is just west of the world-renowned Loma Linda Medical Center. So what we're seeing here at Mariloma needs to be said. This is all tremors, and we may have had one 2.0 earthquake sometime after 6:12, 6:13 a.m. this morning. You can see it here after 6:12 on the black line over here on the right-hand side. It's there. All the rest of these are tremors. This is typically what we see at Mariloma all the time. But we've also seen moderate earthquakes, anywhere from minor 2.0 all the way up to 4.0, 4.5 earthquakes here in Loma Linda. Yeah, that's serious. That's very serious. Okay? Now, let's go over to Moore Park, just north of Los Angeles, north of LA City itself. Moore Park. Look at this, guys. Yes, we have tremors here all over the place. We also have some other minor earthquakes here as well. On the red line after 6 a.m. this morning, over on the left-hand side, you see 0600. That's military time for 6 a.m. Go down to the next red line. That's 6:15. Over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes later, 6:21 a.m. this morning, a 2.9, 3.0 earthquake happened. Okay? 6:21 a.m. this morning, 2.9, 3.0 earthquake hit. Down near the bottom on the blue line. That would, on the left-hand side, that blue line would be 12:30. Come across 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just before 12:36 this afternoon, again, we've had another 2.7, 2.8 earthquake. Yeah. We've been having minor earthquakes all day long here. Minor earthquakes all day long here. Okay? This just north of LA City. Just barely north of LA City. There is a specific reason I'm showing you these earthquakes. There is a specific reason I'm showing you these earthquakes right now. Because the folks in Los Angeles need to be put on notice that a major earthquake is inbound to Southern California. A major earthquake is inbound into LA, San Diego area, Southern California. Yesterday we saw 6.6 in Guatemala, Central America. That 6.6 energy is going to move into Mexico. After it hits in Mexico, it's going to move into Southern California. Okay, it's going to move into Southern California. It's not going to be a 6.0 earthquake. It's going to be much larger. It's going to be much larger. There is seismic energies that's locked up in Los Angeles. Seismic energies locked up in San Diego. Seismic energies locked up over in the Imperial Valley. Look out. Look out, it's coming. I guarantee it. It's coming. Now, there is one other location that I forgot to put up here. If you guys just give me a second here, I'm going to try to find Fontana. Fontana is over just west of the San Andreas Fault. Fontana is going to give us a good reading what's going to happen on the San Andreas Fault within the matter of days. Within the matter of days, guys. I'm kidding you not. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. We've given you a lot of information about the San Andreas Fault before, but I'm dead serious. Okay? The San Andreas Fault is going to pop. The San Andreas Fault is going to pop. Almost like popcorn. But Los Angeles is going to shake like never before. When the San Andreas Fault opens up, every other ancillary fault around Los Angeles will be activated by the San Andreas Fault. The entirety of Los Angeles will be involved. The entirety of Los Angeles will be activated by the San Andreas Fault. Guaranteed. Guaranteed, guys. I'm not trying to hide anything from you. I don't want to scare anybody. But I want you to understand what's actually happening. I want you to understand that if you live down here in the Los Angeles area, whether you live in Los Angeles, Santa Barbara, whether you live over in eastern Los Angeles County, San Bernardino, whether you live over in San Diego or the Imperial Valley, things are going to shake. Things are going to shake very hard. If you're not ready, you may lose your life. You may see members of your family that are unalived. There is a reason I'm talking like this. I am dead cotton picking serious. I am dead cotton picking serious. I'm trying to prepare you for what's going to happen. There are several million people that live all over the LA and LA County areas. Several million people. And they're going to get nailed when this earthquake hits. I want to make sure you are ready for what happens. I want to make sure you are prepared. You can't prepare without knowledge. We've talked about the San Andreas Fault before. I've given you earthquake information. I have given you preparedness information. I'm giving you time elements now. What I'm telling you now is time elements. That's what I'm showing you now. Yes, we have these earthquakes hitting. We have these earthquakes hitting. I want you to be ready for what's going to happen. Might not happen today. It might not happen tomorrow, but it's going to happen. Soul Shakers here in the chat says it's better that people know. You're absolutely right. It is better that people know. I don't want anybody to get to the point where something happens that we didn't talk about. We've talked about earthquakes. We talked about tsunamis. We've talked about tornadoes. We've talked about hurricanes. We've talked about exploding factories. We talked about fires at oil refineries. We've talked about shooters on the loose, maiming people, destroying people's lives. I want everybody to understand what's going on around them so they can better react to what's happening. That's why we're here. This is Moore Park. You see a good sized earthquake here this afternoon. This is not over. Let me show you what is happening in Fontana, California, on the eastern side of Los Angeles. Look at this, guys. This is Fontana on the eastern side of Los Angeles. This is just not tremors. These are minor earthquakes. These are 3.0, 3.5 earthquakes on this side of the ground. These 2.8, 2.9, 3.0, 3.4, 3.5 earthquakes are happening multiple times all day long here in the Fontana area. This is eastern Los Angeles County. You need to be aware of what's going on. These are multiple earthquakes happening at least every few minutes. Every few minutes, guys. 3.0 earthquakes are happening. 2.5, 2.8 earthquakes are happening. Yes, these 2.0, 2.9 might not be felt, but the 3.0, 3.5 earthquakes are being felt here in Fontana. Fact. See these earthquakes here. This is real. This is real here. Linda Covington says here in the chat that she wishes her present risk factors are known here on the East Coast. Linda, we have told everybody what is going to happen here on the East Coast. As I said before, the Atlantic plate is expanding. The Atlantic plate is expanding from the center of the plate. It's pushing the east coast of the United States in a south-southwesterly direction. Maine, Boston, Washington, New York, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Virginia, West Virginia, North and South Carolina, and Georgia, and Florida being pushed in a south-southwesterly direction. The plate is hammering on the East Coast. I've shown you earthquakes here on the East Coast. You may not feel these. You may not feel it if they are minor earthquakes, but there are also 3.0, 3.5 earthquakes happening all over where you're at in Virginia, West Virginia, and also here in North and South Carolina and Georgia. They're happening. People are feeling these quakes. Here in Fontana, California, minor earthquakes and 3.0, 3.5 earthquakes literally all day long today. Los Angeles is moving. It's moving a big way. Moving a huge way. Are you ready for what's going on? I'm trying to show you what's happening. Let's go over to the Imperial Valley. We used to have a town called Westmoreland. There is a town still there, but they've deactivated the seismograph at Westmoreland. So let's go south to the town of Imperial. Imperial. Look at this. Look at this, guys. After 8:15 this morning here, 6:15 this morning. Started off at just tremors. Then it built up to minor earthquakes. Before it was over, we had a 2.5, 2.7 earthquake happening. The seismic energy lasts over 2 minutes. The seismic energy here lasts over 2 minutes. Then we had all kinds of tremors the rest of the day here in the town of Imperial. But it's worse. It gets worse. Let's drop southwest over to the town of El Centro. One of our own EMA family members, Juanito, and his family live here in El Centro. Look at these earthquakes here. We're seeing 3.0 small earthquakes. We're seeing 3.0 to 3.5 earthquakes here. Literally all day long. Off and on every few minutes. Juanito and his family and everybody else that lives here in El Centro feels these earthquakes. There's 35 to 45,000 people living here in El Centro today. They're feeling these earthquakes. But the fact that you need to know is if we go almost directly north to the center, to the south central part of the Salton Sea, that's one of the reasons we're seeing earthquakes here in El Centro. You see these large earthquakes here that have lines leading away from the earthquake? These wiggly lines leading away from these 3.0, 3.5 earthquakes here? That is magma caused. Magma is causing these 3.0, 3.5 earthquakes. Okay? Magma. But not all of these earthquakes are magma related. There are seismic signals here, not just from magma, there are seismic signals here from earth movement. That's what we're seeing here. The Salton Butte volcano, which is underwater on the southern side of the Salton Sea. It's active, it's not dormant. It's active, it's not dormant. The Salton Butte volcano also has mud pots on the southern side of the Salton Sea. Mud pots. Mud pots that are boiling. Boiling, guys. The Salton Butte volcano is getting ready to move, and move in a big way. There are earthquakes all over Southern California, as I've shown you. Let me take you over to the east side of the Salton Sea. I want to take you over to the east side of the Salton Sea because the San Andreas Fault runs down the entire eastern length of the Salton Sea. Again, The San Andres Fault runs the entire length of the Salton Sea on the east side of the Salton Sea. There are earthquakes, such as this. Look at these earthquakes here. Notice that these earthquake sequences have been cut off at the top and the bottom of the sequences. That's because the agency does not want us to know exactly how strong these earthquakes are. Every one of these earthquakes here that you see are at least 3.5 to 4.0 earthquakes. They're 3.5 to 4.0 earthquakes, each and every one of them. Now, up here at the top, over on the left-hand side, you see some red vertical lines. Those individual lines are also earthquakes. Okay? You see a wide area between 0600 and the blue line beneath it. There's a missing red line. That is why you see 5 vertical lines here. The agency took down the individual seismograph line, took it off, because they don't want anybody to realize what happened. There are 5 vertical lines here. Again, they are all the same height, which means, again, the agency, the USGS and Caltech, cut off the top and the bottom of these sequences. That way, we're going to think maybe, just maybe, those are small events. At this point in time, the red lines here on the left and the black lines on the right, those are actually 4.0 earthquakes. 4.0 moderate earthquakes. Again, I call them as I see them, not as USGS wants us to say. USGS wants people to believe that 4.0 earthquakes are small earthquakes. They're not. 4.0 earthquakes and larger are real problems. Yes, they cause earth movement. They can also knock knickknacks and books off shelves. They can knock pictures and wall hangings off shelves. They can rattle dishes until they break. Break because they fall out of the cupboards. That's what these earthquakes do. For Caltech and the USGS to falsify this data is a felony. If I had falsified a report when I was a police officer, they would fire me, or lock me up and throw away the key. Why are they not doing this with the USGS and Caltech? They're falsifying information. Soul Shaker's asking, Ron, do you know which direction the Pacific Plate is currently shifting? The Pacific Plate is pushing directly east. The Pacific Plate is pushing directly east. The Atlantic Plate is pushing the North American Plate in a south-southwesterly direction, meaning the North American Plate that we live on here in the United States and Canada is being pushed south-southwest. The Pacific Plate is subducting underneath the North American Plate on the west coast, subducting, going deep underneath. Let me take this seismogram down. I want to talk to you with my hands. I want to show you what's actually going on. Okay? I'm going to do that right now. The Pacific Plate is subducting underneath the North American continent. It's deep diving to the center of the earth like this. What happens then? When we have a plate subducting underneath the North American continent, causes mountain building. Causes mountain building. Okay? Causes mountain building. You cannot have subduction without volcanoes. You cannot have volcanoes without subduction. You cannot have subduction without volcanoes. We have volcanoes everywhere around the Pacific Ring of Fire. So we know for a fact that the Pacific plate is subducting underneath the North American plate. I've shown you seismograms showing you the volcanoes that are about to erupt that the agencies don't want anybody to know about. Rebecca Griffiths is here in the chat saying, are we going to have more earthquakes? Yes, we are. We absolutely are. Shirley is here in the chat also saying, Ron, what causes the plates to unlock? The plates unlock when we have more seismic energy. When we have more seismic energy pushing on the plates, forcing them to release the energy. That's what's happening. This is exactly what's going on. That's why we're seeing more and more earthquakes on the West Coast. That is why we have volcanoes erupting. They're about to erupt on the West Coast. Yes, they're about to erupt on the West Coast. You saw what happened over on the East Coast of Russia last night. You saw a major 8.8 earthquake, one of the largest earthquakes ever recorded by man, hit over off the southeast coast of the Kamchatka Peninsula. At the same time, we had Kliuchevskoy volcano erupt, the largest earthquake ever in history. The tallest earthquake ever in history erupted, throwing hot molten lava down the west side of the volcano. Yeah. That same scenario is about to happen in Washington, Oregon, and California. I've talked to you guys over the years about Mount Shasta and Mount Lassen. Up until 2 years ago, USGS was able to show us what was happening at Mount Shasta and Mount Lassen. The United States Geological Survey has turned off the seismograph. Actually, they've turned off the seismograph, but we don't have near the coverage we used to have when the seismographs were turned on. We don't. They're not showing the activity, and what activity we have, they scrub off the seismograph. They scrub the activity off, they erase it as if it never happened. We continue seeing that all throughout the volcanoes, all throughout the world when it comes to earthquakes. They don't want anybody to know what's going on. They want to keep everybody in the dark. I am giving you the information. Minority reporters here in the chat, I welcome you here. Thank you for being here. Though we have quite a few new people here in this chat here that are watching this program for the first time. You folks that are watching here for the first time, please subscribe to our program. When you subscribe to the program, also click on that little notification bell. There's a little notification bell right next to the subscription button. So after you subscribe, click on that notification bell. When you click on that bell, there will be a drop-down menu of 3 items. Drop-down menu of 3 items. Click on the word ALL, all. That way you'll get notified when we come on the air. So please do that. We'd appreciate it. Also, the longer you spend with us on these programs, the better off everybody is. Some people only stay here 5 or 10 minutes. Some people stay here 15 minutes and leave. If you only stay here a short time, you're not going to get anything from this program, because we give you vital emergency information every day. Vital emergency information every day that could protect your family, yourself, and your loved ones, neighbors, and friends as well. You need to pass this program on to everybody. Share it widely. Share it widely. Stay here for the entire program. Yes, at the beginning, we showed you videos from what happened in Russia last night. We showed you tsunami videos as well. If you stayed for that, you stayed for the volcanic portion. But you did not hear me talk about earthquakes that are happening here on the West Coast. We're about to see at least 2 to 3 volcanoes erupt on the West Coast of the United States. Yes, it's going to happen. Yes, it's going to happen. The activity's there. It's gearing up to erupt again. You see earthquakes in Southern California happening as well. We're going to see a major tragedy on the West Coast of North America, California. Major earthquakes happening. You guys that have been here for a while know my friend Rob 52. He used to live in California. He was here last night. He was living over in Los Angeles. I was in San Diego. I've seen large earthquakes hit there. We've seen 6.5, 6.9 earthquakes hit in Southern California. I've been in San Diego. I have been in San Diego when we've had a 7.1 earthquake hit on the US-Mexican border, April 3rd, 2010. I know what happens. That's why we're here, folks. I want to advise everybody what's going on. The government will never tell you what's going on. My friend Don Patogo was here with us last night. He said something very real. He quoted former President Reagan, late President Reagan. He said, Reagan once said, if the government comes a-knocking and they say they're here to help you, shut the door. The government are big fat liars, as Dean Rona just said in the chat. The government are big fat liars. They're not wanting to show us what's going on. They're not wanting to tell us that we're going to have an earthquake in Southern California, a major earthquake that I believe is going to happen between now and the end of August. Yeah, it might be a little longer, but I don't think so. I think it's going to happen in Southern California between now and the end of August. Are you ready? Are you prepared? Do you have an emergency preparedness plan? Do you have an emergency kit? If not, why not? If you don't, you need to get it. You need to do it now. Do you have food to last longer than a week? Do you have food and clothing? Do you have water to last more than a week? If not, why not? You need to get food and water. The earthquake that is about to happen in Southern California is going to knock food off of shelves. It's going to knock out water mains. It's going to knock out gas mains and cause fires. The store shelves in your local area are going to empty within 72 hours. Food and water are not going to be available. Do you have the food and water necessary to stay alive? You're not going to live past about 3 to 4 days without water, especially in the heat that we've had. Do you have that? If not, why not? Minority Report just put up here in the chat a bug out bag ready. Absolutely. That's minimum. Minimums have a bug out bag ready. Back in 2014, I've told this story many times. Back in 2014, FEMA had been telling emergency managers for years to tell our citizens of our states, our cities, and our towns, our counties, to have a 72-hour kit. 3 days worth of food, 3 days worth of water, 3 days worth of clothing, and other necessary medical essentials. FEMA asked the emergency managers a question, one question only. How many emergency managers have a 72-hour kit? Back in 2014. Guess what? There are only 25% of emergency managers here in the United States that have a 72-hour kit. 3 days worth of food. 3 days worth of food. How many people have over 3 days worth of food? How many don't? If you don't, you need to get it. You need to get your food and water now. You need to get it now. This is not a myth. It's not a myth like Bigfoot. This is real. This is real life. I'm not joking. Once you have a 72-hour kit, you need to work yourself up to 3 months, 6 months, and then a year's supply of food and water. You need to do that immediately. Immediately. Minority Reporter, Soul Shaker, I live in Ripley, out of the country. Actually, Hazel Van said that. Minority Report said a Baofeng radio, and the rest of the majority of the stuff, the mandatory stuff. Need to have it. I have my Baofeng ham radio right here. I'm ready to go. I've also shown you these. The Family Radio Service radios. This is just not Family Radio Service. This Family Radio Service radio here also has what they call General Mobile Radio Frequencies, GMRS. The GMRS signals will travel farther and faster. You need to have it. You need to have it. Ham radios can bounce signals off the top of mountaintops and communicate for upwards of 100 to 300, 400 miles. You need to get these things. The ham radios need to have licenses. The GMRS radios need to have licenses, but the Family Radio Service radios like this cost maybe $20 for the pair. You need to get it. How else are you going to communicate when your family's in one place and you're in the other? You need to get it. You also need to get this. This is an AM/FM weather radio. An AM and FM weather radio. You tune into this, you're also going to be able to have weather signals, knowing what's going on in your community. Also, the government, local, city, and state, and federal government can tap in to the weather frequencies when there's an emergency and tell you what's going to happen and what you need to do to prepare yourselves. You need to do this. You need to do this, and you need to do this right now. I've been telling you this for years. I've been telling this for years. Minority Report says a gas mask and a fuel tank full of gas. Absolutely. You need to do it now. You may not have another chance. Minority Report is saying that the ham radio you can operate with without a license during emergencies. That's correct. That's correct. You might piss off a bunch of ham radio people, but you can relay emergency messages during an emergency. For as little as $25, you can own this Baofeng radio. Fact. Fact. Now, I've told you about the earthquakes. I've told you about the volcanoes. We just got through having one of the largest earthquakes on record. One of the largest earthquakes ever happened on record. The other one was a 9.0 earthquake just prior to this, back in 2011, over in Japan. We just got through having an 8.8. That energy is going to move across the Aleutian Island chain all the way up into Alaska. Anchorage, Alaska is also going to have an earthquake, a major earthquake. The Kamchatka Peninsula, if you look at it, you can go over and look at it. Look at it. If you look at it through a long-range lens, you're going to be looking at Canada and the state of Washington. For years now, I've been talking about the Cascadia megathrust earthquake. Last week, I talked about the Haida Gwaii megathrust earthquake. Yeah, fact. We're going to still have a 9.0, 10.0 earthquake on the Haida Gwaii subduction zone and the Cascadia subduction zone. It's going to happen. Major, major earthquakes. And it can happen. It can happen now. It could happen now. I'm asking everybody to get ready. I'm asking everybody to get ready and get ready immediately. You may not have another chance. I don't want to put fear into somebody. I don't want people to run scared. But I want to get this fact out. If you don't do what I'm talking about, you may not have another chance to do it. You and your family have a chance now to save your lives. You have a chance now to save your lives, and it's worth saving. Keep your fuel tanks full in your cars. Make sure you keep your cars runnable. Do it. My northern reporter says he's 35 miles from Mount St. Helens, and Mount St. Helens is going to erupt again. Fact. Mount Rainier is about to erupt as well. Mount Shasta and Mount Lassen, and more extent Mount Lassen than Mount Shasta, but they're going to erupt. Then we have volcanoes over in east central California. Mammoth, Long Valley volcanoes. In Nevada, we have even more volcanoes. All of the volcanoes are reawakening. All of the volcanoes are recharging now as we speak. Look out. Look out. My buddy Demon Catman has put our address here. There's a reason. Our address is flowing across the bottom of your screen as we speak. I'm going to ask you also, please, folks, if you will, follow our PayPal here that you see scrolling across the bottom of your screen now. Come here and also support us money-wise to help keep this program on the air. It takes money to pay to keep this program on the air. I spend several $100s a month to make sure we can stay on the air. Bandwidth for computer to broadcast. Electricity also. $253 a month to stay on the air. I'd ask you to help us, please. Also, you see our address, our physical address here, our mailing address, 504 Bethel Road, Box 401, Morganton, North Carolina. The zip code here is 28655. You can mail us a letter. You can mail us a card. Inside that letter, make sure it's the cash or the check is inside the letter or inside the card. That way nobody's going to see it. We would like you to send us also information in your letter on what you've done to prepare, what you are doing to prepare. I want to share that information for everybody. No, I will not mention your names, but I want to make sure that we share pertinent information that everybody can do themselves, that you can prepare. This is essential for your own survival. Linda Covington is here in our chat. I gave her credit last night on our program. She sent a card and a check to my wife, who lost her mother last week. I want to thank her for that. I want to thank her for that. Last night, Heidi Petrick, that she's seen in here in the chat tonight, also sent us a PayPal donation. Our buddy Philip, I'm not going to give his last name. I don't have permission to use his last name on the air. But Philip sent us a donation also on PayPal, which we greatly appreciate. Please, folks, please help us keep this channel on the air. I am going to be here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be here till I can't be here any longer, because I believe in what we're doing. I believe in each one of you. I believe it's worth saving people's lives. That's what we do here on this channel. We save people's lives. I appreciate everybody that's here. Again, if you're here for the first time, please make sure you subscribe to our channel. Hit that little bell icon so you get notified when we come on the air. That's essential. Please help support this program as well. And yes, folks, please pray for my wife. She's not feeling good. She caught a bug from the plane. Please pray for her. She's hurting because of the loss of her mother. Her family is also hurting. Her father is 88 years old. Just lost a spouse that he's been married to for over 60 years. So please pray for him. His first name is Van. Please pray for Carol, and please pray for Van and their family. They need that. I want to thank everybody for being here. My devotion tonight, I end this program with a devotional almost every night. I want to tell you this. I love and appreciate our Savior, Jesus Christ. He's my Savior. He's my King. He's my deliverer. I love him. The Savior atoned for our sins. The Savior atoned for our sins. Each one of us needs to be thankful for Jesus Christ. Gave up his life for us. One, that when we die, we're going to live again in heaven. He's promised us that. He broke the bands of death. We're going to live again with our families in heaven, each and every one of us. Please, folks, if you don't have a testimony of Jesus Christ, pray and get one. Get down on your knees next to your bed or someplace else and pray to God to get answers to your prayers. Because I promise you, you will. I promise you, your prayers will be answered. Michael Kearney says blood atonement. Absolutely right. Each one of us is going to live after death. I know that for a fact. I ask God to bless you. I ask God to be with you every day, each and every day, and bless you and your families. Get prepared, guys. Get prepared. We all need the blessings of the atonement of Jesus Christ. We all need the blessings that we have when we do the things necessary to make sure we have Jesus Christ and God in our lives. He's given us a brain. He's given us information to survive. I have passed on that information to you. Yes, I have information on my database that I am in process of putting together in a book that I want to share with all of you. Share with our community and share with the world. I'm going to publish a book probably within the next year or so. I'm sharing it with you. Every time I come on the air, I share more and more with you. On Fridays, I talk about emergency preparedness almost exclusively because I'm trying to help each one of you. Please, folks, please follow what we're saying. Get prepared. Get on your knees and find a testimony of yourself for Jesus Christ. He lives. He hears and answers prayers. Ask God be with you. God be with you until we meet again. Tomorrow is Thursday evening. I'm going to specifically talk about the Cascadia subduction zone. I'm going to show you more and more what's happening at Mount Rainier, Mount St. Helens, Mount Hood, Crater Lake, Mount Baker, Glacier Peak, Sisters Volcanoes, Newberry Volcanoes, and Bachelor Volcano, as well as Shasta and Lassen. You need to know this. We're trying to save your life. God be with you until we meet again. We'll see you on the other side. Come on the air tomorrow just after 4 o'clock p.m. Be there or be square. Have a good day, everybody. Much love. I love you very much. See you soon.